All right, today we are diving deep, and I mean really deep, inside our own bodies to talk about something you probably ran into in biology class, the Krebs cycle. Now, I know what you might be thinking, complex diagrams, confusing names, but let's just forget all of that for a minute. I want you to think of this cycle as the tireless, fundamental engine humming away inside every single one of your cells, right now. It is the heart of your personal power grid.
Yep, that's the one. The Krebs cycle. It's the process that takes the food you eat, your lunch, your breakfast, and literally converts it into the raw energy that's powering your thoughts as you're listening to this. So the big question is, how does this incredible little engine actually work? Let's get into it.
Okay, first things first. To understand any machine, you gotta know two things. Where do you find it, and what's its main job? So let's locate the cell's engine room and figure out exactly what this cycle is built to do. Well, it actually depends on who you are. For complex life like us, eukaryotes, all the action goes down inside the mitochondria. Specifically, in the very core, a place called the mitochondrial matrix. It's basically the VIP room of the cell's power plant. But for simpler organisms, like bacteria, which don't have all these fancy compartments, the whole show just runs in the main fluid of the cell, the cytosol.
So what is its central function? It's to oxidize acetyl-CoA. Okay, that sounds really technical, I get it. But all it really means is that the cycle takes this specific fuel molecule, acetyl-CoA, and just systematically breaks it apart. As it gets dismantled, it releases its carbon as waste, which we breathe out. And most importantly, it frees up the valuable high-energy electrons that were holding it together.
And this is where it gets really cool, because the Krebs cycle is a master multitasker. It has two huge jobs. Job number one is breaking things down. It's like a demolition crew, smashing fuel to capture those high-energy electrons. But job number two? It's a construction supplier. Some of the molecules made during the cycle can be pulled off the assembly line to build other things the cell needs, like amino acids. This is why we call it a metabolic hub. It's where breakdown and buildup all connect. Okay, so if it's capturing all this energy, what's the actual payout, right? What do we get for our trouble? Let's count the profits and see what this engine actually produces.
So for every single spin of this cycle, for just one molecule of that acetyl-CoA fuel, here's what we get. We get 2 molecules of carbon dioxide, that's the waste. We get 1 molecule of GTP, which is like a little spark of direct energy. But the real prize, the big win, are the 3 NADH molecules and the 1 FADH2 molecule. The best way to think of these, they're like fully charged, high-capacity batteries, just packed with all that energy.
But here's the catch. A charged battery is useless until you plug it into something, right? These NADH and FADH2 molecules have to be carried over to the next stage of the power plant to be cashed in. And they get cashed in for the cell's universal energy currency, a little molecule you've definitely heard of, ATP.
So what's the exchange rate? Well, each one of those NADH batteries holds enough juice to produce about 2.5 units of ATP. And the other type of battery, FADH2, it's a slightly different model, so it cashes in for a little less, about 1.5 ATP.
So let's do the math. You take the energy from 3 NADH, 1 FADH2, plus that 1 direct hit of GTP, and you end up with a grand total of about 10 ATP for every single turn of the cycle. Not bad.
But wait, it gets even better. Remember that the simple sugar glucose, our body's main fuel, is big enough to generate 2 fuel molecules for the cycle. So for every 1 molecule of glucose you use, you actually get 2 turns of the Krebs cycle. That gives us a fantastic yield of around 20 ATP just from this one hub.
Now, this process is obviously incredibly powerful, but you don't want an engine redlining all the time. It has to be controlled. So how does the cell manage this? Well, it has this incredibly elegant metabolic control panel that keeps everything perfectly balanced. The logic here is actually super simple and kind of beautiful. The cycle hits the accelerator when the cell is running low on power. High levels of ADP, think of that as the uncharged battery, is a major signal to speed things up. On the flip side, when the cell is fully charged up with lots of ATP and NADH, those molecules actually hit the brakes and tell the cycle to slow down.
It's a perfect supply and demand system.
And this control isn't just random. It happens at 3 very specific checkpoints. These 3 enzymes basically act like gates in the pathway. They're the ones listening for those speed up or slow down signals from ATP and ADP, giving the cell incredibly precise control over the whole process.
And think about this. What happens if the cell pulls one of the cycle's parts out to use as a building block somewhere else? The whole thing doesn't just grind to a halt? Nope. The system is smart. Other chemical reactions, called anaplerotic reactions, jump in to refill the cycle and replace whatever was taken. It's just more proof that this is a dynamic, responsive hub, not just a simple closed loop.
So, let's zoom out for a second and look at the big picture. When you put all of these pieces together, you start to see why the Krebs cycle is so much more than just a boring chart in a textbook.
I think this quote really nails it. It's the central hub, the grand central station of your metabolism. It connects the highways of breaking fuel down, building new molecules up in the efficient production of the ATP that powers, well, everything you do.
And that's really the main thing to take away from all this. The Krebs cycle isn't some static, dusty process. It's a living, breathing, incredibly elegant system. It's the responsive, intelligent heart of life at the cellular level, constantly adjusting to meet the exact needs of the cell from moment to moment.
It's an almost perfect system, and it's absolutely central to nearly all life on this planet that uses oxygen, from a tiny bacterium all the way up to us. And that leaves us with one final, really important question to think about. If this elegant cycle is so critical, what happens when it breaks?